Hi there. I'm just in the polytunnel because it's a bit windy outside to sort of do any recording. Um, I don't want to. I'm not a scaremongerer, and I know a lot of people out there think I'm absolutely crazy, and there's a lot of people who think we're absolutely crazy for what we do here on our small holding, raising our own meat, growing our own food. Well, that's their choice if they want to think that. But listen, people, there's a lot going on in the world right now, and the reflection of that is prices are rising. And I'm not just talking of the price of the latest mobile phone or the latest electronic gadget or whatever. Basic food staples are going up in price. They're going to skyrocket. They've already started rising. I've been preparing, preserving, putting away, growing my own for many, many years now. And when I first got into this, I remember my family thought I was absolutely nuts, calling me a crazy prepper. And yeah, at the beginning I did jump down that big prepping rabbit hole, but I sort of popped back out again and saw it for what it really is. You don't need tons of weapons, we're not looking at an apocalypse or anything else. We are looking at basic day-to-day life, and that is what I'm preparing for. Putting food on the table. The other night on the news, they announced that gas that we use for heating homes, heating water, cooking, has gone up 13 times in the past. It's cost 13 times more than what it did 3 years ago. 13 times. I'm glad I don't have to depend on gas. We don't have gas here. We're not on mains for gas. How are people going to afford this? It's basic heating, basic hot water, keeping warm. The price rises are set to come into force from April, I believe. But it's not just your heating and cooking it's going to affect. The gas is used for producing electricity. It's used in manufacturing. All of that is going to, the repercussion of that is going to be, that's all going to go up in price. As well as that, they've announced aluminium is skyrocketing. Everything you buy in a tin can, everything from that fizzy drink to that tin of beans is going to go up in price, and it's starting to go up. Grains are going up in price, and I'm not just talking about your loaf of bread going up from £1 to £1.50 or whatever it is now. We don't buy in bread very often, so I don't really know the prices of it. But grains is your pasta, your pies, your pastries, your biscuits, your breakfast cereal. Most processed foods have grains in them. All the animal feed has grains. So the knock-on effect is going to be meat is going to go up in price, eggs are going to go up in price, dairy is going to go up in price. Everything is going up in price. Fertilizers are going up in price. So even if you're saying, oh, I don't eat meat, I'm vegan, I don't do any of that, your food is transported in, it uses fertilizers, that is all going up. And the way things are going, the average shopping bill for a family, it wouldn't surprise me if in 6 months' time it's up to £1,000 a month. And how are you going to afford that? How can you put food on the table for your family when that is what it costs? And we do produce some food here that we sell. We sell eggs, we sell meat, and we sell surplus veg. But our prices are going up. The cost of us feeding the animals has risen and is going to continue to rise. It's there's nothing we can do about it. The animals have to be fed. So we're having to pass them costs on just to break even. And people are going to complain. You know, a few months ago we were selling eggs at £1 for half a dozen. We're now selling eggs at £1.20 for half a dozen. That price is going to go up to £1.50 for half a dozen. And if people don't want to pay it, fine, don't pay it. It's no skin off my nose if you don't buy our eggs. If you don't buy our eggs at that price, because we will repurpose those eggs back into animal feed. We will be looking after ourselves. We don't do what we do for everybody else. We do it for us, and we are looking after ourselves. And that's what everybody needs to do. You need to start looking after yourself, looking after your own household. There's so many families out there who cook separate meals. You know, they'll be cooking this meal for that child, that meal for that child. You know, and then the kids are only eating half of it and the rest of it is being thrown away. And then, you know, mum or dad or whoever is going into the kitchen and preparing something else for them. Food waste has to stop. You're throwing your money away. You are not going to be able to afford to throw your money away. You are not going to be able to afford to feed fussy children whatever they want to eat. The takeaways, the junk food, the sweets and cakes and all of that, they're going to be astronomical in price, and they've got to go back to being treats. You know, that's what they are. They're not part of everyday food. They are treats, and you need to start enforcing that now, cutting back now, before it hits you. And it's going to hit you. And anybody who says, oh, this is just scaremongering, it's not going to happen, the government's going to look after you. Are they? Are they looking after you now? You know, fuel costs are going up. Yes, there's going to be a cap on it, but you've still got to find that money. So if you're not preparing now for what is going to hit you in the next month, 6 months, a year, that is down to you. You know, if you are spending your time sitting watching daytime TV and whatever is on during that, I've got no idea, it's not something I watch, you know, and all your soap operas and all that, and you think everything's hunky-dory in the world, you're only fooling yourself. And it's going to hit back at you, it's going to hit back at your family. Yeah, we will look after the people closest to us. And if friends need something, we will help them out, but in return, they will help us out. We're not giving away to freeloaders. I know lots of people who've said, oh, when things get really bad, we're just going to come to you because you're prepared and you've got it all put away and everything. Why should I? Why are you my responsibility? Why should I feed them because they can't be bothered to make adjustments to their lifestyle now? And I'm not prepared to do that. If they've got no food to put on the table, yeah, they can have food, but in return, they will have to work for it, whether that be mucking animals out, doing weeding, whatever needs doing, you know, they will have to give something back in return. And if they're not prepared to do that, well, you know, I'm not prepared to feed them. And yeah, that might seem selfish, and there'll be those who say, oh, I can't do all that sort of thing. Well, there's lots of things you can do, and there's always something somebody can do. And when people say, oh, I can't afford to put food by, you know, I can barely manage as it is, well, look at what food you're buying, and perhaps it's time to go back to the basics with your meals. Instead of spending £5 on a pizza, you know, buy in a load of vegetable and make up some soups or whatever. Your choice. It's your money, it's your choice, and your choices are going to become more and more restricted if you don't take actions now. If you've got children who are fussy eaters, I'm not talking about those with sensory needs, who have texture problems or whatever. I'm talking about children who are, oh, I don't want to eat that, oh, I don't like that. You've brought that about. It's time for you to start doing something about it. And, you know, when you sit down to a meal, you know, look at that meal and think, do we actually need all this? How much of this are we wasting? You know, repurpose the leftovers. And, you know, leftover veg can be turned into vegetable grills, vegetable burgers. It can be added to the next meal. It can be turned into soups. It can be added to casseroles. You cannot afford to waste food. You really need to look at what you are buying. Those biscuits that you sit there and eat every day with your cup of tea, the price of them is going to skyrocket. They're going to become a luxury item. And so maybe instead of having 4 or 5 biscuits, have one. Have it as a treat. You know, go back to doing some baking. Start getting some food on the shelves, basic food put away. And if you've got the space, if you've got a garden, you need to get growing. And being out there and growing some food to put on the table for your family is, I can see it as the only way forward. And if you haven't got the space to grow, join up with somebody who has got the space and work together. We need to pull together in this, and we need to look at what we can do. You know, it's when you look back at World War II, World War One, and they had all the rationing and that. Rationing, I can see it coming back. And me personally, and us personally here, rationing won't really hit us. Because we're not dependent on the shops for food. We're not dependent, you know, on the government for a lot of things. We are fairly self-reliant here. And yes, there's all those who said, oh, you're just scaremongering. Oh, it's not going to happen. And there is even people out there who are saying that this whole Russian-Ukrainian war is fake. You know, it's fake. This is the government are only putting all this out to try and control us. You know, wake up. This isn't fake. This is real life. And it's not just with this Russian-Ukrainian war that food shortages and food price rises has come about. Things have been starting to rise slowly over the past year. You know, there's been an interruption to supplies, which has had a knock-on effect, and we're still not recovered from that. And that was, you know, with the whole COVID thing. But whatever your views are on that, that's yours. I have my own views on that, and I'll keep them to myself. I'm not trying to scare anybody. And yeah, you think I'm crazy? Yeah, you go ahead and think I'm crazy, you know, but in 6 months' time, don't come knocking on my door and saying, you know, oh, I can't afford to feed my children today. I've got nothing to put on the table. And, you know, when you look at how the majority of people are living at the moment, it's, I have to have the latest clothes, I have to have the latest electronics, the latest makeup. You know, they're following celebrities, they're following influencers, and they want to dress like them, look like them, behave like them, go to the places they go to. Why? You know, what's wrong with your life? You can't afford to be like that. And if you're going to get yourself in debt because you want to dress like some celebrity, you know, then your priorities are really, really wrong. And your priorities right now should be, you know, I have to prepare for hardship. This is real hardship that's coming. And, you know, there's lots of YouTube channels out there that I watch from America, and I watch them from Russia, and I watch them from Ukraine, I watch them from Poland, I watch them from Australia. Everybody's saying the same thing. They're all saying the same thing. You know, we're all out there saying this is what is happening, and people are not paying any attention. You know, I still see people posting, you know, oh, this is in the shops. And, you know, the latest, whatever it is, bit of plastic, bit of junk, you know, something that you you don't need in your life, and people are rushing out and buying it, you know, and oh, these are my latest leggings and my latest top, and that's where their money is going. Fuel costs, you know, fuel costs. Well, when I think back at the beginning of all the lockdowns, fuel was what, 99p a litre here in the UK. I think that was for diesel. And what we're looking at, what was that, 18 months ago? And now we're looking at £1.56 a litre, I believe. And it doesn't matter what you buy, what you decide to spend your money on, it has to be transported, it has to be manufactured, and the price of that is going to go up. You need to prioritise what is more important to you, having food in your belly, or having heating, or having the latest iPhone, or whatever it is you're into buying. You know, your iPhone at the end of the day isn't going to keep you warm, and it's not going to stop your belly from rumbling. And just so you can boast to friends, you know, oh, this is what I've got. You know, this is the latest designer top I've bought. Yeah, sorry, but that's just not going to cut it. So what I'm saying is, what am I saying? What I'm saying is, you need to start preparing. You need to start looking forward to how you can help yourself and your family, or your friends, or your, you know, your loved ones, your parents, your children. You all need to work together on this, and you need to be all singing from the same hymn sheet. And if your partner or your children don't agree with this, well, you know, just you know, if they're not going to give you the extra money to pay for all these extra things, you know, you just have to enforce it. So if you say to them, sorry, we can only have one takeaway a month now instead of 3 takeaways a week, which there's a lot of people out there, unbelievably or not, do have 3 or 4 takeaways a week. You know, then that's the way it's going to be. And if it is just a once a month treat, then that's great. That's how it should be. You know, it should be a treat. It should be something you look forward to, not of, oh, you know, go in the drawer, pull out the menus, you know, who's going to have what tonight, and you're all ordering from different takeaways and Uber Eats or whoever it is. I'm not really sure how these things work, because we don't use them, and, you know, we're too far out for things like that anyway. You know, and they're delivering all your food for you, which is all beige in colour, etc. And then you're all sitting down and eating something different, and you've perhaps paid 50, 60, 70 pounds for that pleasure. And then that 50, 60 pound, you know, could be filling your cupboard. And if you're doing that several times a week, then at the moment, I'm just going to say you've got more money than sense. Because while it might be costing you 50, 60 pounds for a meal several times a week, so what we're looking at, 150, 200 pounds a week you're going to be spending, because you can't be bothered to go in the kitchen and cook, you can't be bothered to go to the shops and buy real food, then you know, what are you going to do? How can you afford to carry on like that? Yeah, we have takeaways, we have the occasional takeaway. Why not? We work hard, and you know, but it's not part of our daily life. And if the takeaways weren't there, then you know, it wouldn't bother us. You know, we can live without them. We don't need to sit down with Netflix and eat a takeaway several times a week, and And I know there's people out there with children who think, oh, but I want to sit down with my kids and watch a movie and eat popcorn. Well, you can. You know, there's nothing saying you can't, but you've got to get your priorities right first and think to yourself, you know, can we afford to actually keep doing this, or should this be something we look forward to and not part of our normal everyday life? And I know not everybody's got land. I know that, and I know we're in I wouldn't say we're in a lucky position. We've worked hard, very hard, for what we've got and what we've bought, and we still work hard at it every day. It's our lifestyle choice. So not everybody's got land, but that doesn't mean you can't put food by, and you can't meal plan, and you can't prepare for the hardships that are coming. You know, you can, when you go and do your shopping, you know, buy that extra bag of pasta, and, you know, and don't sort of think, well, that means I don't have to buy one next month. You know, if it's something you buy, say, on a regular basis, you know, every time you go shopping, you're buying a bag of pasta. Just because you bought that extra bag doesn't mean, oh, next month I don't have to buy it. We can go and have something else instead. No, that is your, these are your supplies you're putting by. And even if it's things like herbs, for example, I went one of my rare trips to the supermarket the other week, a few weeks back, and herbs, those little bags of cut fresh herbs, nearly a pound, and I'm looking at them and I thought, are they serious? You know, little bag, you know, enough fresh herbs maybe for a meal, and it was a pound. Or you could buy a pot of herbs growing, and I think that was something like £2.99. And I thought, well, yeah, that one would be better value because you can keep them going and you can continue to harvest from it. But then you could get, you know, all them empty yogurt pots and everything you're throwing in the bin, or margarine or butter tubs and everything else. You know, make a hole in the bottom, pop a bit of compost in, even a bit of garden soil if you have to. Buy a packet of seeds, 99p. That packet of seeds would probably keep you in herbs for a good year, maybe 2 years, depending on how much you use them. And you just pop them on your kitchen windowsill and you water them and you cut them as and when you want. Any extra growth, you know, you could dry when you've had the oven on, you know, and you've turned it off when you're finished cooking. You pop them on a little tray in the bottom of the oven with the oven door open, dry them out, crumble them up, refill your herb jar. Herb jars, have you seen the price of them herb jars? You know, £3 or £4 for a little jar of dried herbs. And I think, how can people afford to do this? I mean, we're not wealthy by any means, but we're not on the poverty line. But I couldn't afford to, the amount of herbs we use, I couldn't afford to go and keep buying them little jars of herbs. And, you know, instead of buying a jar of herbs, buy a bag. You know, you can go to the Asian food stores and health food stores, and you can buy a bag of herbs and refill your own jar. You know, what the bag is going to cost you is the same as what one of them little jars is going to cost you, and you've probably got 6-8 times as much. So, you know, you really have to look at where your money is going, what you are buying, what you are spending on. It is your responsibility to take care of yourself. It's not the government's responsibility. And, you know, what I could see happening is, you know, like back in the in the war. Oh, I've got the sun now coming out there. And people would be queuing up, you know, at the food kitchens, etc., for food. And do you want to be like that? Do you want to be in that queue trying to get some food to put in your belly, in your kids' bellies? You know, do you want to have to live on rations that are set by the government? If they were to bring in rationing, yeah, I would probably use them, get them rations, whatever I'm allowed, and I would barter with them for the things that I do need, or whether it be, you know, you come and muck my chicken house out, you know, and I'll give you, you know, the bacon ration or whatever it is, or the milk ration, or whatever it is, you know, they're rationing, in exchange. And because while you're mucking out my chicken house, I can be tending to something else. So, you know, I can't see this coming to an end anytime soon. I can only see it getting worse. And I'd like to be proved wrong. You know, I'd like to, in 6 months' time, come on here and say, you know what, I was really wrong about all that. You know, food prices have dropped to an all-time low, fuel's dropped to an all-time low, you know, all the gas and the electrics come down in price, and, you know, we can all carry on just taking our foreign holidays and buying our designer clothes, and we don't have to worry about putting food on the table. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think the days of cheap food are gone. They really are. When I see people posting, you know, oh, the bag of rice that I bought, you know, has now gone up 20p. Well, you may not think, oh, 20p, that's nothing. You know, what's she on about? You know, everybody can afford that extra 20p. But when you add up that if that 20p is 20p every week, and then it goes up to 50p, you know, an extra 50p or an extra pound. And that... you know, that's just on one item. And when you add it all up, what you have to take into account is, while all that's going up in price, your wages are not going up in price. So you've got the same money to manage on, and you have to make it go further. And for example, I buy our flour in bulk bags. I buy it in 16 kilo bags. And bread flour I buy in, I probably get in about 2 of those a year. And I placed my order 3 weeks ago, I think I bought it. The usual one that I buy, Haygate's strong white bread flour. And a 16 kilo bag was $16.99. I think it's £2 up from what I paid last time, which would have been last year. So it's $16.99 for a 16 kilo bag. So that equates to, let me roughly work it out in my head. That works out to about 32 loaves of bread. So that's, about 60p, 55p to 60p I'm spending on a loaf of bread. I prefer that to the shop bought stuff. Yeah, you can get that horrible white plasticky shop bought bread, very cheap. Or it was, I don't know what it costs now. But to me, that's just a chemical based food and very little goodness in it. And to us, a loaf of bread can probably last us about a week. You know, it's not something we don't cut the crusts off and waste them, and it's not something we eat constantly. So anyway, I digress. And then I looked the other night, the same bag of flour from the same supplier is now up to $21.99 a sack. $21.99. That is a £5 rise. And I've no doubt in another few weeks it will be even higher. Now, if I'm having to pay that, that's a bulk buy. I don't know what flour is in the shops, your little bags, because I haven't bought that for years. But if I'm having to pay that as a consumer, what are manufacturers having to pay? And whatever it is, manufacturers, yeah, they've got a bigger buying power, I know that. But whatever the manufacturers are paying, they're going to pass that rise in costs to you. And it's not just the cost of the flour, it will be the cost of the actual manufacturing, because that uses electric, gas, etc. Oil, packaging, all that packaging uses oil. Oil is up through the roof. And then there's the delivery cost of it to the shops. And then the shop have got to put their bit on, which they've got overheads, you know, they've got gas and electric heating overheads, staff overheads, all of that. So instead of me paying 60p a loaf to make it, if I had all those costs that the manufacturers have got, you know, I'd perhaps be looking at, what, £1 a loaf to make it. Would I be able to do it for £1 a loaf? At the moment, yeah, I could, but when it starts going up to £2 a loaf, would I then be looking at, well, hey, let's, you know, let's hold off here. You know, we have to cut back on bread, we have to cut back on flour usage, and I know we can do that because we have the knowledge and we have the facilities and the way for all on how to do all that. Do you? When I run 2 groups on Facebook, on social media, and one is a prepping group and one is a self-sufficiency group, and they're both aimed at women, and they are women only groups, and there's a whole host of reasons why they're women only, but there we go, that's what they are. And I see people on there saying, oh, I paid this amount last week and this is what it's gone up to this week. Well, what's it going to go up to next week? And they're all waking up to it. They all know they have to start preparing. They know what, they can see what's coming. And I've got family members who say, oh, well, you know, yeah, we'll just put an extra jumper on if we can't afford to put the heating on. Yeah, you put your extra jumper on, but you just remember what it was like when the beast from the east hit and how perishing cold it was. We've had a very mild winter this year, very, very mild. No extreme temperatures, but if we get extreme temperatures next year, you can't afford to heat your house or heat all the rooms of your house, and you're going to be sitting there surrounded in blankets and jumpers and thinking, well, we can't even afford to heat any food up, and we have to eat cold food, and we can only have what food, measly amount of food we can afford to buy in, because what she was saying was right, and I wish I had put some extra by. I wish I had done a bit of preparation, and I wish, instead of sitting watching whatever it is you watch during the day on TV, I couldn't tell you what is on during the day, you know, I'd been out there and, you know, working a bit in the garden, and or perhaps baking some meals from scratch, and you know, it's going to be too late then. It will be hitting you. So anyway, this I don't want this to be all doom and gloom, and like I say, I'm not scaremongering. I just want people to see what is going on, and I want them to prepare for what's going on. And like I keep saying, this is only the start. This really is only the start of it, and things are going to get a lot worse, and our pockets are going to get a lot deeper, our arms are going to get a lot shorter, and your pound isn't going to go as far. So take care, everybody. I do hope you keep watching. I'm going to be doing lots of videos on what you can do to help make your pound stretch that little bit further, and perhaps put that little bit extra food on the table when it's needed. So that's my chat for this week. I've got work to go and do. Take care, everybody, and I will catch up to you again soon.